Hello and welcome. It is All for United. We are back once again. Feels like every day we're on a weekend, and that's because it has been Saturday and Sunday, and we are coming to you live. So thank you for inviting us into your homes, and if you're watching us on a replay, thanks for watching us. Then perhaps you're listening to us on the way to work. Perhaps you're in a car. Be careful. Keep watching where you're going, and maybe don't get too over animated at all of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. We've got ourselves a cracking little panel. As ever, it's that man, my right-hand man on the left-hand side, Mr. Dan Field over there. How are you doing, sir? No. Gotta unmute.
I don't know what's happened here, but I can't unmute myself anymore.
No, it's because I don't know why. Perhaps you've been kicked off of all your privileges.
I say I've been relegated without being told. Yeah, quite happy. We called this game pretty sharp yesterday when we did the preview. I think it was pretty much spot on with how it went as well. So I'm happy today with the result.
You said 3-1 as well, didn't you?
No, I said 2-1.
Can't have everything.
No, it was 2-1, wasn't it?
Well, I thought you said 3-1.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to have a look. I'm sure I said 2-1.
I have to watch that back then. I have to watch that back.
I'm sure I said as well. I might be wrong, but I'm sure I said McTominay had come off the
Somebody said 2-1. I didn't think it was you, but there we go.
Come off the bench and
I've
score.
not been well, so that's my excuse. Danny B, we've got him just underneath there. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Same as Dan. Happy with the result. Performance wasn't perhaps the best, but a win's a win, and we take it.
Now, the big question here is, Dan, how is it that you can unmute yourself and big man up top there can't?
Don't know.
I feel like I think that's a field problem, not a me problem.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. Stop tapping your microphone and start using the prop stuff. NT's backing you up. Apparently, you both said 2-1, so there you are. I've slept since then, NT. Like the fact I've even moved and made it onto 3 shows this week has been a minor miracle, to be fair. So there we go. And just below me, we have got a brand new guy, somebody new to the channel. We'll get all of his socials and things like that for you all to follow later on. Should he wish to share them with you? I'm sure he will. But either way, just below us, here he is. It's Andy. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Sundays are always better after a United win, aren't they? It was nice to see a little bit of fight from the lads as well. That was
Make
good.
or break a weekend.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And I feel like more importantly, another person who's learned how to unmute themselves. So
Yeah, I thought I'd get on that quick.
It's not ideal. I feel like you need to practice. In fact, I'm going to mute you now, Dan. There we go. You just practice unmuting yourself, sir. Let's see if you can manage it. Whilst he's playing around with that button, see if he can learn how to unmute himself. Tell us a bit about yourself, Andy. How was it you came to follow Man United, and just tell us a little bit about your experience as a fan, really, heroes, that sort of thing.
Went to United first when I was, I don't know, I'm nearly 40 now, so when I was a teenager, maybe, in the Cantona days. And he was just the king for me straight away. As soon as I saw Cantona live, that was like, wow, and I've loved us ever since. I always get the glory hunter thing from fans because you're supporting us from that era. Then you just back that off how you do, don't you? But it's like having a wife, innit? I mean, I'd rather been the wife than been United. It's like religion, and it's with you then, and it's yeah.
I get it. Totally do.
You know what I mean?
Get rid of it at all. It's quite a hard thing to do, actually, to get to that point in your life. Bestie is here. Welcome, sir. Good to have you here. So, I suppose we should kick off straight in with it, really. Twilumber saying we start all right and just decline. We're going to get to that. Don't worry about that. But all told, it's a huge result, Dan. Like a really, really, really big result for United to get in at the point that we've got into and actually manage to get the result against Aston Villa, the toughest team we've probably played so far in 2024. To be in that sort of situation and to get the win, just on basis, without going in depth into the game, How good does that result feel for you today? I want you to practice unmuting yourself.
We've got to start this Dan stuff, haven't we? We're going to call Dan Mr. B from now on because it's the only way I'm not going to get confused.
You can't do that. Oh, my God. Mr. B, we've got Mr. Bean, we've got the lot going on.
There'll be loads of Mr. B's then going off. Yeah.
I've been called worse. I'll take it.
No, I'm relatively happy. It's a massive result more than anything. I think it's Ten Hag's first win away at a team in the top 9 as well, which is a run that definitely had to come to an end. Without going into too much detail, there was a point where I thought a half-time record was going to go. So I'm just A, relieved that it didn't go, and B, relieved that we got the result.
Really did keep that one short. There was really happily throwing up the comments. Like, oh, quick, get onto that bit. Danny B, for you, we've seen your tweets already, and you know, a little bit of squeaky bum at 1-1. We'll get to that again a bit later on in the show, but just in general, for you, how does that rank in terms of performances this season?
Yeah, I think it was a huge win. I think, you know, we couldn't afford to lose really today. Well, even a draw wasn't really enough. We needed to win just to kind of keep the top 4 race even, just slight hopes alive. But it, like Andy said, it was nice to see the lads just, you know, fighting for every ball, blocks, getting, you know, people putting the body on the line and things like that. It was just, there was a lot of fight in there, which was what I took more from today than the actual performance all round.
I mean, it's interesting, Andy. Twilumba here, you'll get used to Twilumba. He sort of goes somewhere between being absolutely delighted with the team and then as if he just wants to push them all off. So he's a lovely lad. We love Twilumba on this show. But he's put, at this point, the only thing we can be happy about is 3 points. Simple. Otherwise, this is unsustainable type of play, dependent on the big names, and now we're having injuries again. For you, how big is this result to get a win against Aston? I mean, it's Aston Villa, but for us at the moment, that's a team that's in the top 5, a team that's just above us. We needed to pull them back. We're 8 points behind them. Now it's only 5. They're on decline. We look like we've got the momentum behind us.
Oh yeah, it feels like a big win. I mean, for me, we went into that game as underdogs with how good Villa have been at home. We knew what Villa were going to do, and I thought, yeah, it was just really good to see some fight from the lads. We probably should have done a little bit better when we got through a few times, but yeah, it was good to see some fight. It's a big win. I don't really go in for this top 4 talk yet, but it was a good win. It was nice. It's just nice to see us winning and playing well again.
No, I think I agree in general there. Dave throwing in his man of the match early. We are going to have a little chat about who might be man of the match today because I think there's certainly a discussion to be had. And hello, Sir John. How are you? Lovely to see you. Hopefully have him back on the channel in the next 7 days or so. And Jarvis has popped in as well. Look, all the big names are popping in through the door now. Amazing. Okay, so let's kick it off. Let's get straight into that first half. It was a strange one, wasn't it, Big Dan, Danny Field, right-hand man, you, one on the top, one that I go to first nearly every time. It was a bit of a strange one, wasn't it? The team was named as we would have expected. I don't think any of us looked at the team really in the squad and went, oh, I didn't really expect that to be the starting 11. I think you could generally have named that. Were you happy with how the game started? Did you feel like we battled well enough in that first half against Aston Villa?
Well, I was really happy with not seeing Luke Shaw at centre back. That was a good start to the day for me. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the lineup. It was what we pretty much called yesterday. Very little changes from Ten Hag. As normal, to be fair, he's got his favourite 11 of 12. He sticks to his favourite 11 of 12. I actually thought we played really well for 20 minutes. Then we scored. And then we didn't seem to play very well anymore. It's happened quite a few times this season. But yeah, the first 20 minutes or so, I was quite happy. We controlled the play very well. We sort of played Ten Hag's sort of brand of football that he likes to play. The wingers had quite a bit of joy. And then we get the goal. And it's like suddenly the whole thing changed. Players weren't chasing anymore. There was then them big gaps that we see in midfield that we've complained about quite a lot. Well, I've complained about in particular quite a lot lately. They start to appear. I think there's an argument to be had that Emre actually changed something in terms of position of McGinn and I think it was Bailey, and it started to work for them, and then we didn't seem to be able to stop it. Gary Neville mentioned it several times in terms of the space in next to Dallo was being exploited constantly. And I can remember a game against Brighton earlier in the season. It's really, really similar. And we just didn't seem to be able to stop it, which is a bit disappointing. The players should have a little bit more about them tactically to know how to stop that. Yeah, I was quite relieved to get to halftime because it was definitely turning in Villa's favour. So I think the first half was a bit hit and miss, but for 20 minutes it was positive. For 25 minutes it wasn't fantastic.
I mean, that's pretty much, I think, where you'd go with it, isn't it, Danny B? The fact that we did have quite a good start to the game. We were in it, we were involved, but we did then let Villa sort of get back into it. And once they had a hold of the game, they never really let go, did they?
Yeah, like I agree with Dan pretty much. I think we played well for 20 minutes, and then as soon as that goal hit the back of the net, it was like the switch got turned off, and it was like we were on the back foot. They were finding gaps everywhere, and I posted it earlier that there was just the gaps were so big. You're like, how are none of the players addressing this? Like even just on the field, never mind the coach or anybody, but how's like someone not shouting at Manu to get in there or Casemiro to get there? There was just so many gaps coming, and like I was relieved to get to half time in front and thought we might come out better second half. But no, 20 minutes we were pretty good. I couldn't fault it. And then, like I say, once the goal went in, it just went backwards.
I mean, Andy, NT's spot on here, isn't he? It did remind us a little bit of that first half of the time under Ralph Rangnick. You know, we had some good football involved in the game. It was really looking very, very positive for us. And then we just sort of turned the off button. It was a bit like when you see some of these AI robot type things that just sort of drift off to be charged, and that was it. You know, it was waiting to be plugged back in again and switched on.
Yeah, I think we do that a lot. To be fair, I think when we go in front in games, we just switch off. And like Dan says, Villa were taking over the midfield, and it took us so long. I'm not even sure if we did solve the problem, to be fair, but it took us so long to work out what they were doing that they probably should have scored one or two in that period. But yeah, that's definitely something that they need to sort out. The way we just switch off after we score, it's like they think the job's done and they just turn off.
Yeah, I mean, very true. But what we did do was score a goal, nice and early, 17 minutes in, and it's that man again, Rasmus Højlund, 5 in 5 Premier League games. He just can't stop scoring at the moment, can he? Andy, for you, how good and how positive was that goal? We had the corner ball came in, Harry Maguire gets up there. I don't think he really knew where he was heading it. He just stuck his great big head in the way as best as he could in the hope it was going to go somewhere. And it was brilliant. It went exactly where we wanted it to go to. Rasmus with a great job staying on side as well. And between the three of them there, brilliant little goal put through the goalkeeper's legs.
Yeah, I think Maguire had, was it Kamara? I think he had him on toast like for all their set pieces, didn't he? Why they put Kamara on Maguire, I have no idea. He was just wrestling him all over the shot, weren't he? Maguire was winning every header. And yeah, I think everything Højlund touches at the minute just seems to end up in the back of the net, doesn't it? He's got so much confidence, and fair play to him. He's playing well, isn't he?
I think I agree. And Big Dan, I'm going to come to you in a minute. We're going to go for Danny B on this one as well. It was really interesting, I thought, seeing that goal. What really got me was afterwards at half-time when you were watching the Sky highlights, whatever they might want to call it, their analysis, because they showed the goal. Then they went on saying there might have been some controversy that it shouldn't have been a corner anyway because Casemiro was offside. And then they even go down the route of perhaps it shouldn't have even been a free kick either. Now, I can live with somebody saying it might not have been a free kick in the first place. I can even live with the fact that they might want to be talking about, Rasmus's goal and all that sort of thing. But the fact they were starting to look at Casemiro and whether or not he was offside, which is something that not even VAR would do, I found that a little bit shocking. Did you find that quite shocking? And tell us as well your thoughts on the goal.
I thought personally, I thought the goal was coming. I could see we'd had a few balls into the box. Like Andy said, Maguire was winning every header. He wasn't like he had ones that went over the bar. He was knocking them down, and it was good that Højlund seems to just know where to be, doesn't he? He knows where to make the runs. He knows where, Johnny on the spot. He knows where to be. And I think, like we said previously, when the goals weren't there, the goals were going to come because he just knew where to be. He's got that instinct. The Sky thing, honestly, I was laughing my head off with my dad watching it. Like, we were just saying, like, how anti-United does it come across? Like, I guarantee if that was Liverpool, they'd have just been saying, "Oh, that's a great goal, great finish." Let's hope Klopp wins the league for his retirement. All that kind of stuff. But with Man United, it's like, right, let's look for a reason it shouldn't have been a goal. And it's like the Maguire one at Fulham earlier on in the season where he was offside. I've not seen another one given like that since that goal where it got given for Maguire being offside because he was trying to interfere with play or something. I don't think I've seen many others given like that, and it just seems to be United quite a lot, and I don't understand.
I'm not sure I understood it really. I mean, it stuck out for me because I just sort of thought, like, it's looking for an offside. It's not even like as Casemiro pushed someone or done something like that. Like, it doesn't touch the ball. It just felt they were clutching at straws with that one. And I don't usually buy into all this bias that people talk about in general, but I thought that was pretty atrocious. Dan, for you, up at the top there, how were you feeling about the goal? Because again, brilliant work, and I'm guessing, I know you said you wanted Harry Maguire to score, but the assist, you take that, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'll take it, definitely. He's done well to knock it back into an area where someone should be, really, and that's what you need. But I agree with what Andy said about Kamara. We spoke on the show a few weeks ago out. Can't remember who it was, but somebody was marking like a 6'2" bloke. I think it was Kobe Mainu, and we was asking serious questions on how that has happened. I ain't got a clue what Villa are thinking that Kamara should be marking Maguire. And after the first corner or the second corner, where, to be honest, there's a shout for a penalty that they didn't replay on Sky Sports, or they didn't even look at it. And Maguire is literally dragged to the floor as he's trying to run for the ball. And he's running back and he's screaming at the referee saying, like, it's worse than Højlund did against Rodri and it's not given as a penalty. And this is my issue with stuff like that. And I was really, really happy with the goal. This is what I was saying about Højlund a few shows back. He's getting in positions now, but he's getting involved in the play as well, and he's making a nuisance not just in the box, out the box. He seems to be everywhere now, and then he's also back in them places where he's going to get a tap in and he's going to finish from 5 yards, and that is perfect. If he can get 20 more of them this season, I'll be buzzing. But no complaints at all. I thought Maguire was good today, and I thought Højlund was good as well.
It did seem like we said that people are trying to get the ball to Højlund a bit more, trying to find him a bit more. Just before the goal, Andy, I thought I saw a nice little link up between the front three. Rashford gave the ball to Garnacho, I think. And then Garnacho, instead of shooting, which I thought he was going to do because there was a sight on goal, tried to cross the ball in between the defenders to get to Højlund. Didn't work, obviously. It got cleared. Where do you feel the balance is on that? Because obviously as a striker, you want the ball to be coming to you more often. But I've got to be honest, on that one, I thought I would have expected to see Garnacho shoot and then have someone like Højlund there to gobble up any bits and pieces that might be left, because he's got a sight on goal. Why would he not? What do you reckon? Were they just trying to feed him now because they know he's starting to score more? Is it just the inexperience of Garnacho, the fact that he's still a bit young and a bit naive? Or what? What do you think it was that made Garnacho go for the cross there? And do you agree with that? Do you think it was the right thing to do?
I think it's a tricky one, isn't it? It does feel like a bit of a switch has happened early on in the season. Højlund was getting no service, and I'm not sure what's happened. Whether it is a training thing, and they've said, you need to be looking for him a little bit more. But I do have a bit of an issue with Garnacho's decision making at times. But then you kind of switch that on its head, and you lose the special moments, don't you? If he passes all the time, if that makes sense. So yeah, as much as I want him to find Højlund, but like Dan says, Højlund's getting himself into much better positions now, and he's finding room on the pitch a lot more than he was maybe before Christmas. So I think he's putting himself in positions where they have to find him now as well. But yeah, I think I don't have much of an issue with Garnacho and Rashford doing their little Hollywood moments, because I think they are finding him a lot more now as well. So I think there's a nice balance going on now. Like he's putting himself in positions more now. So I think there's a nice balance. I don't want to take that away from Garnacho and Rashford, because you lose the magic then, I think.
Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree with that as well. So yeah, there we go. That was the goal. We're going to put out a couple of starred posts here, because Tolumba has said the ref was horrible with his cards, and Davis said it was never a yellow for Cass. He never touched the player, robbed him. Now, this is ironic. I've watched the whole game. And because I'm on Now TV and I'm on the app, I can't rewind it. So I missed that bit. I was looking down at my phone. I was like, oh. So I had to go back and try and find it. So I'm scrolling through Twitter. All I could see was the picture. And I was not about to sit there and make a decision based on a picture. But I did manage to re-see that particular moment. And I'm going to preface it with, I think he touches his foot, but it's like a toe, and it doesn't require going down in the manner that it goes down in. And for me, it's never a yellow card, not in a million years. But I would love to know what you guys think. So, Danny B, we'll kick off with you. What did you reckon? Yellow card or not a yellow card? Is it just an anti-Cass situation?
I think it is purely his reputation. I think if that was Manu, would he have been booked? That's saying that it's a foul.
He did get booked.
Well, he did later on, and to be fair, I do think that was definitely a yellow card, that one. But I'm not even sure Casemiro even touches him enough to bring him down, anyways. And I think, to be honest, I have no faith in many officials. But I was waiting when Casemiro was protesting his innocence and in his fit. I was waiting for him to give a second yellow card and sent him off. I don't know about Dan, because me and Dan have debates about referees quite a lot, but I was just waiting when he was there going, I never touched him, and you're thinking, oh, don't do it. But no, it didn't look like a yellow card to me. I've seen it back and it still doesn't look like a yellow card. It's barely a foul, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I try not to debate that with anything, to be honest with you. It takes too long otherwise for me. I've got too much other stuff going on. So I just have to, yes, Dan, absolutely. NT just saying about Garnacho's just turned 21. It's important to keep that in mind. Class of 92 turned out to be some of our best ever players. Weren't world beaters at his age. Gigs even, maybe an exception. Fair point. Fair point indeed. And Andy as well, Connor here. If you won't know Connor is in charge of the All 4 brand. He's talking about rocking the new collection. He's saying he'll have it on tomorrow's WFC show. It's so nice. This is the Stone Roses collection. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So there we go. That's quite a tasty little thing you've got going on there. It gives me Italian 90 vibes, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm just sort of getting that sort of era, that sort of moment back in my head. But there we go. Your thoughts on the Casemiro situation? Because he doesn't do anything near enough for the geezer to go down. He's absolutely took a tumble knowing he was trying to buy a free kick, and he's got the added bonus of a yellow for Casemiro, which maybe plays into why we struggled a bit in the midfield then, because our two centre midfielders by the second half were all on the yellow card.
There we go, me.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah, I just think it's his name. I think it's just a very easy booking now. I think the refs are quite weak. It's never a booking, is it really? I'm sure a few Villa players did a lot worse before that, and they were diving about and all that. And I think Casemiro's, I'm surprised he didn't get sent off, to be honest, as Dan said. It wouldn't have surprised me at all, but I think his name is doing him at the minute.
I mean, Dan, I think everybody was expecting him to be sent off once he'd got the first one, just because we know that Casemiro is not somebody to hold back. But what did you make of it? Because I definitely saw some other tackles that had way more bite in them than a tiny little step on a toenail that just didn't require the level of theatrics that we got. This is where it gets frustrating, isn't it? Because he's had a yellow card and then eventually the red, of course, for the strangling, where he's just grabbed somebody's shirt, and it's like VAR will intervene on just about everything, but then on something that's a blatant thing like this, I mean, that's clear and obvious. That's never in a million years a yellow card. And I don't think you'll find a Villa fan who would even sit there and go, yeah, he definitely deserved a yellow card for that challenge. You might find ones later on in the game. And in fact, there was one from Casemiro where at one point I was thinking, oh, crikey, he might be about to go here. And he didn't. But it's pretty bad, isn't it? And if the officials are going to keep on being a talking point in the games, which they have been, to be fair, since the game began, I'm sure. But if that's going to keep happening, it just detracts from the spectacle of the game of football, doesn't it?
Well, the conversation we had yesterday, I thought was going to come back and haunt us. So I don't know if you watched the showdown, but we had a conversation in terms of the blue card, the sin bin offences. Like, referees need to be consistent and punish players that sarcastically clap, etc. So as soon as he got booked and he was sort of overreacting to what had happened, I know he was annoyed. I'm going, oh no, we said this yesterday, he's going to get sent off. Then we're going to absolutely fuming about it, but we were saying that they need to be consistent. For me, I was getting really frustrated by halftime with the ref. Thankfully, it wasn't an issue in the end. He sort of went out the game in the second half. Casemiro annoyed me a little bit because even on a yellow, there's a couple of tackles that he went into that he shouldn't have gone into, and he should know better. But Cash clearly dives, and this is the annoyance for me. It's clear. I think he's expecting there to be a lot more contact than there is. So he's reading as if he's going to get a shin clear out, and he didn't. I don't even think he touches him. I think he plants his foot in front, and he just goes over. My issue with that is Casemiro then ends up on a booking, which stops Casemiro playing his way when it should have been Cash getting the booking in the first half for diving, and then Rashford's got a hole, as we saw in the second half. He goes at Cash and Cash gets booked. So Rashford's then got an extra 40 minutes to go at him while he's on a booking. And it changes the way Villa play. But I totally agree with what we're saying in terms of...
Of course, if Cash gets booked the first time for the dive, then that second one will be a send off.
Well, it just changes the way Cash can play the entire game. He's got to be a lot more backed off from Rashford. And most players in Ten Hag would have been on at Rashford at half time. You go at your man now. He's on a booking. We've got an advantage. But Kamara did about 4 fouls in that first half. That was the worst in Casemiro's, and didn't get booked. And it's just the consistency for me. And even then, there's, I don't know his name, Moreno, I think. He's their left back. He dives to try and get a penalty.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's a dive, and it should be another yellow card. Mm-hmm. And I counted. To be fair, even Højlund took a little bit of a tumble in the first half as well. I counted 4 dives in the first half, and none of them was punished. But Højlund went down really soft on the edge of the box, and Villa did 3 of them. But only Casemiro ends up with a booking, and it's so frustrating. But like I say, thankfully, the referee wasn't the talking point in the second half. He sort of, from looking like he was going to be the main star of the show, he wasn't. I can't really say that he did anything wrong in the second half.
I'm old enough to remember when they were starting to introduce yellow cards for diving. And again, I think it's hard when you're going to turn around and say somebody's dived, or whether you're going to turn around and say somebody's deliberately handballed it. I don't know how you get into somebody's head to know that they've done that. I mean, to take a dive insinuates that you've deliberately thrown your body to the ground to try and earn a free kick. Whereas
99% of the penalties given.
Maybe, yeah. But there's got to be an element of, could they have just been trying to jump out the way and then they just don't land the way they want to? I think a bit of that's about how they choose to get up. If they carry on lying there and then they start going, oh, it should be a penalty, then obviously you can then start to insinuate a bit more as to what's wrong with them. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't ideal. Here we go. He would have given him a blue card. That's exactly what we're talking about. And that's it. Would they have done? Would that have made a difference? 10 minutes off for one of those, but it could have been worse. It could have been us. Casemiro could have been the one who had to go off for 10 minutes, and that would have been right before half time. And who knows quite how that would have gone. Niall B joined us. Hello, sir. Big win today. Absolutely, it certainly was a massive one. So we made it all the way to half time. Still 1-0. Wonderful world. We're all feeling a little bit more positive and hopeful. Obviously, also hoping that the performance would get a little bit better because, as we said, we dropped off. Then Luke Shaw comes off, and in goes Victor Lindelof, which is giving me women's team vibes. At the moment, we've got Gemma Evans playing at left back, and she's a centre back. So, how do we feel about that, Andy? This idea of Shaw coming off and having to stick Victor Lindelof out on in the left full back slot.
Yeah, we just lose so much, don't we, when Shaw comes off? Defensively, he was good. I thought in the first half, I thought he was solid enough against, was it Bailly in the first half? But with his link up with Rashford as well down that left, is just so good. It's like chalk and cheese. You could immediately see Lindelof. He was kind of pushing in, wasn't he? He was doing his centre back thing. He was kind of pushing in, and there was so much room down that left. But it begs the question for me: why did Reguilon get let go? If Malacia is so far from fitness, and I think I saw on the show last night that we've got X amount of defenders out already. That numbers are an issue. Why did we let Reguilon go? Because he'd have been perfect, and I thought he played well when he was on loan with us. He'd have been perfect to slot in there. But yeah, I just hope that's not anything too serious, because we lose. He's so good, I think, Luke Shaw, that we lose. The drop off from Shaw to Lindelof is absolutely huge, and I think Villa capitalised on that in the second half.
No, absolutely. I felt it's just one of those ridiculous things. I was pleased to hear you watched the show last night, and that you've heard some of the things that I was saying. That's amazing. I've been quoted on the show before. That's nice. But it's absolutely the case. We spoke about Fernandes still being off and being sent away again, and you just think we had these fullbacks, and now we're in a situation. Again, defence is the place where we've got the most senior players, but it's also the place where we've got the most players out injured, and most of those are in fullback positions. So, yeah, it's not ideal. Dan, B, how was that looking for you? I mean, it must have been quite an annoying sort of situation. Like, first of all, do we think it's an injury? Is that what's happened to Luke Shaw as to why he's been taken off? Because I can't see any other reason why he comes off for Victor Lindelof in a game of this significance.
I seen Ten Hag's interview after the game, and he said it was a precaution that he was taken off for. So hopefully, well, compared to Martinez last week when he said, "Oh, we need to pray," so it maybe isn't as bad as that. So that that was a relief when I heard him say that. But like Andy said, there, it's chalk and cheese swapping Luke Shaw for Lindelof, and like. Again, like you say, why do we let Reguilon go? The Fernandes deal to Benfica on loan was a weird one anyways. And then now you add the injuries, send them Reguilon back. It looks even more of a ridiculous decision. I don't fully understand it. But the thing with Lindelof, I kind of felt bad for him. He's just coming back himself, and he's been put in out of position against Leon Bailey, who's absolutely rapid. And he must have been thanking his lucky stars when Bailey got subbed off. It must have been, because everything was coming down that side, and I was just waiting for something to happen down that side. And it was just, it's frustrating, because it was nice to have Martinez back. It was nice to have Shaw back, but it was very short-lived.
I mean, it was. I mean, again, Dan, for me, it's the fact that he did it at half-time. We're 1-0 up. We're only just about noses in front. It's not like we're 3-0 up and cruising. Do you think it's the right decision that he's made there? He says it's a precaution. So I know this isn't about trying to bash Ten Hag and try and say he's making terrible decisions, but to sit there and think, maybe could he not done another 15 minutes or so just to be able to find our feet in the second half? I mean, I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think genuinely because we lost Martinez last week, he's probably thinking in his head, we can't afford to lose Luke Shaw long term. So it's probably the right choice to take him at half time. But I agree with Andy and Dan in terms of we sent Fernandes to Benfica, who, again, he went to the Championship. He earned his stripes. He got Preston North End's Player of the Season. He showed he could do it. And there's another player in this that people sort of forget is Brandon Williams, who could... Again, I'm not saying he should start for Man United, but in a time like this, it's the perfect sort of player that can come in because he knows what it's like to play for the club. He puts himself about a little bit. He plays more like Luke Shaw than Lindelof will play like Luke Shaw, and that's why it's such chalk and cheese. So Eric sort of put himself in this position by allowing these moves to happen. But I think he's made the right choice to take Shaw off, because the last thing we need is Shaw being out for another 6 months. He still might miss a few games. We don't know yet. But ultimately, you can't go against the decision because he's made it and we still won the game. So we can just sort of get away with this one and be happy.
Absolutely. And Georgie agrees. He says he thinks it's a good decision because we need Shaw. Whereas Tulumba says, I think some of these decisions are beyond ETH in terms of letting the likes of Alvaro leave. Could be. Yeah, maybe it isn't.
I actually agree. And I've said this a few times on previous shows. Some of the activity we're seeing with these youth players is 1000% to do with FFP. There's something going off where we must be so close to the line of failing it that's why we're letting these kids go for loans of 6 million, and we'll let them go on a loan, but you can sign him for 15 million if he plays so many games and stuff like that. I think we're genuinely close to FFP. So it's not all Ten Hag's fault, but he'll be the one that, if we lose, he'll be the one that puts the bill for the mistakes.
For sure. I think George is agreeing with you. Because I can't see anybody else who could be wrong. So I think he meant Dan. So I think he meant you. Could be one of the two of you. I tend to agree more often than not as well. So there we go. But we shall see. I'm sure he shall pop back in and let us know. Just an interesting point that's being brought up at the moment. Dave's saying he'd like to see more of our academy players get their chances. We've got a few behind the scenes that can score. And NT responded with, we do, might be a year or two away to graduate because most are 16 to 18. But I have a feeling the next time we're in the Premier League, a few of them will be a big part of it. Exciting times ahead. But what I would say is we do have a lot of youngsters currently in the team playing, being used in the periphery. Amari Forson obviously didn't come on today, but he's another name that's there. There's a good 5 or 6 in and around the side and in and around the squad that could play. I mean, we've got Kambwala, Mainu, Garnacho, Hoyland's only 21. You know, so when you start talking about these players, I think it's quite something. So, you know, listen, we always want to see our academy players do well. But what I think I'd like to see right now is just the nucleus of players that we can see doing really well stay, and then let's start building the team around that and getting rid of some of the people we really don't need, people that just don't even get a game. And yes, Anthony Marshall, I'm looking at you. Very good. This is a job that only people that enjoy the 60s are going to enjoy. I think he meant we do run to do run. It was a cracking song. Schmells, I think, was who sang that, but very good. Love it. So there we go. Not I'm old enough to remember the 60s, but my mother loved it. So I've become a bit of a 60s fan. So there we go. I wanted to talk a little bit about Andre Onana, especially with you, Danny B, because you maintained, I think you think it's his best game in a Man United shirt so far. I felt like the last game that he played, the Wolves game, was his best game in a United shirt so far. And I'm not convinced as yet that this one eclipses that. But 8 saves made today, and definitely very important ones at that. Only 3 for Aston Villa being made. So I think it's a good one for Andre. But tell us a little bit how important he was, because he did make some absolutely tremendous stops that made sure that we stayed ahead.
Like anyone who watches the channel, I've been very critical of him. I'm still not totally sold on him, but I think today we don't win that game without Onana today. First half, we'd have been 3-4-1 down at half time if it wasn't for him. And I think, you know, credit where it's due. I'm always happy to be proven wrong. I'd rather have this crop of players prove me wrong, you know. And the ones I've criticised, I'm quite happy for them to prove me wrong every week. But I just thought some of the saves were, like, they weren't like worldy saves, but there were saves that he probably wasn't making like months ago. And, you know, getting his body in the right positions and making the saves look easier than they maybe were. Just, I think he's focusing on the basics again. There was a couple of bits with his distribution where I thought, you know, he kicked it out for throw-ins and things like that. But I can take that if he's stopping the ball going in the net. You know, if he's doing his actual job, without sounding like Roy Keane there, if he's doing his job, which is stopping the ball going in the net, then I think, you know, I can deal with him kicking the ball out for a throw-in a few times.
No, absolutely. And again, Andy, this is what I'm talking about. See, this is the duality of Tulumba. Onana being a statue really worked today. Most of those shots were aimed at him. And do you know what, Andy, to a degree, I can see where he's getting at with that. As Dan says, none of them were really weldy saves. It wasn't like he was running across and diving across the goal and clawing them out. But there was one that stood out, I think, in the first half for me. and it was just like a left-footed shot. It was going top bins. It stood where he was, and the difference was he gets two hands to it.
Mhm.
Whereas before, we've just sort of seen those hands go back, and it just still flies into the top corner as if he's tickled it or just added a little bit of varnish to the side of the ball so it looks pretty when it goes in. Instead, he's pushed it right over and gone for a corner. What did you make of Andre Onana? And as you're new to the channel, what have you made of his start to his Manchester United career?
I think his start's pretty questionable, but was it West Ham the last game and this one? You can see positives there. I thought the first half today's positioning a few times was very, very good. I think he let himself down a little bit with the goal, but I think there are positives there. I'm not totally sold on him being our number one long term, but I'm not the other way yet. Do you know what I mean? The jury's still out a little bit on him. There's some really good signs. I'd like to see his distribution a bit better, as that was apparently one of the big things that we signed him for. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was solid today. What he had to do was good. He scuffed a little bit with the goal, like prior to the goal that led to the goal. But yeah, he's okay. I'm kind of like he's okay. I'm not any more than that really at the minute with him.
Seems reasonable. And Dan, we've had our chat about Onana. We know how you feel about him. We know how I feel about him. So we don't need to go over that ground. But a solid performance today.
Yeah, I thought it was one of his better performances, if not the best performances he's had in a United shirt today. He just did the basics right. And again, I agree. I think I was reading the stats. It was something like he saved a 1.56 expected goal ratio today, which is worth its weight in gold in terms of the results. I was just looking over his short passing. He was accurate with 25 of 37, and then when he came out of his box as well, he was successful 4 for 4, which has helped loads today. But his long balls, 15 played, only 3 hit the target. But I still maintain that is down to our players as well. We're not very good at winning the first ball, and we don't often win the second ball. So he was definitely better today.
I think I agree, but what wasn't better today was our defence from set pieces. And with just over an hour gone, we gave ourselves made it squeaky bum time, didn't we? We did what we didn't want to do, which was to give Aston Villa a foothold in the game and something to try and build on. And it was a terrible goal, really, wasn't it? I mean, the corner just was not dealt with. And I think for me, that's the big problem about our defence at the moment. They're not necessarily dealing with things. It comes in, it wasn't cleared very well. There's an argument that Onana could have come for the ball in the first place before it gets headed back across goal. You sort of see him go and then go, oh, actually, no, I won't. It's that sort of reticence and reluctance to come in and take command of his area that I think worries us sometimes. But there were so many chances to clear that ball before it finally fell to Douglas Luiz. Danny B, what did you make of the goal? Because again, I know that once that went in, you felt that was probably going to be curtains for us, but it wasn't good, was it?
Yeah, like you say there, Barry, it was just there was so many opportunities just to clear the lines and reset. Even if they just kicked it out for a throw, and you get your line sorted, you get organised, and you're ready to defend again. And it was just there was so many missed opportunities just to clear our lines, and a lot of it was that they were just swiping at the ball, and it was like that's what they were trying to do, but no one could get a big enough connection on it to clear it. And yeah, it was just a scramble. It was scrappy. If you're scoring that goal, I would still think to myself the defence should have cleared that if it was the other way around. So the fact that it went against us, I was just sat there thinking, how have we let that in? But you couldn't have argued Villa didn't deserve the equaliser. They were by far on top at that point.
Andy, do you pretty much agree with that? And how much did you rate, if you're on Strictly Come Dancing, Douglas Luiz's little shimmy? And how much do you think that contributed to us sticking it right back up at them?
No, I agree with Dan. We just panic, don't we? Onana probably should have come out for the first one, but how many times can they get rid of it after that? And we never clear it far enough. We always clear it to the edge of the box, and it's always coming back, and we never feel like we're set. Do you know what I mean? We're so panicky when teams push us, and that's one of the things I talk about on my other channel. Like, if we never defend solidly, I always feel like there's a goal there for the other team. And don't get me wrong, it was coming today, but I think it was a goal that could have been avoided, that one. And Luis to do that celebration, I was so glad that we scored that winner. I was gutted that McTominay didn't do something similar, to be honest, just to rub it in his face a little bit.
Scott McTominay was too busy being hugged by the fans, I think, at that point, to be able to do any type of gyrating that wouldn't have got him up on a charge. But Dan, for you, again, it wasn't the best goal to watch, wasn't the best goal to concede. I think for me, again, the frustrating part, not only could it have been dealt with, just we seemed so static. Nobody seemed to move. It was like when you're playing pinball and you see the ball's the only thing that goes moving around and everybody else just sort of stands there and it hits these things and bounces off. And that was what it was like. Nobody was actually trying to move towards the ball and actually block it or do something with it.
Yeah, this is the same issue when Onana clears it long. We're very reluctant to win the first ball and we're not often there for the second ball. And there was probably 4 occasions that ball could have been cleared. And then as Luis turns on it, you've got Dalot and Varane just staring at him, watching him turn and smash the ball in. And we've seen from previous weeks, Dalot normally drops back to the line. And so they sort of went together. They sort of dropped back and he was on top of Onana. And I was just a bit... We've got international players watching the ball in the middle of the pitch. And it's even more frustrating because there's a chance afterwards they got on the edge of the box and Varane is so aware of the space, he closes it down in seconds. So it's just a little lapse in judgment from the players. But it was interesting to see Maguire and McTominay's interview afterwards because Maguire touched on the defending and he said that it's not been good enough for a couple of years and they need to improve on it. And he was quite critical of himself and the other defenders that they're not doing the job when it comes to corners. So we spoke previously on a show about whether it could be tactics. So that to me is the coaches are asking to do stuff at corners and the players just aren't doing it. So and Maguire was saying that afterwards, we need to be better at that. There's got to be a movement on it at some point because it's just not good enough. It's going to cost us this season if we don't fix it.
And here we go. It's I don't know which one it would be, Jekyll or Hyde, that's popped out here. The defenders were ball watching indeed, but maybe it all happened too fast for them to react. I love you. I actually do. You are one of my favourite people on this channel, without a shadow of a doubt. That's awesome. Have our attackers looked at our goal difference? I don't think any of us dare look at our goal difference, if I'm brutally honest with you. It's make you want to get the whiskey out of that, wouldn't it? So there we are. We had a star. That's what I wanted to look at next. It was this one. It was from Franz. Why is the Casse Menu midfield being overrun? So little protection for the defence. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because with 6-7 minutes after that goal, we bring in a change. Marcus Rashford off for Scott McTominay. Interesting change. What do we make of that? First of all, ignore the fact that Scott went on to go and score the goal. We'll come to that in just a second. But Scott McTominay for Marcus Rashford. Now, it wasn't for Cass. It wasn't for Cobby. For Marcus Rashford, an attacker. And we've just conceded a goal. Is this a negative against Marcus? Is this a positive for Scott? Is this the idea that Ten Hag's maybe listening to some of the people in the fan base who would rather see Scott play further up the pitch than lower down? Gary Neville apparently said that he brought him on to sort out the midfield and the fact that we're being overrun. What was your thoughts on the Scott McTominay substitution before he became the best substitution in the history of football since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in 1999? Dan Bateman.
Yeah, I think the substitution, it cried out to me a bit of, I thought he was maybe going to settle for a draw. I think he was maybe just going to try and close it up a bit. I heard Neville saying about the overrun in midfield, but anyone who watches McTominay knows that he doesn't really track his runners anyways, so it doesn't really make that much difference. But I posted on Twitter, when he come on, I said it'll either be an inspired one that wins us the game, or it'll be a one that costs us the game, like when he come on against Forest. And obviously it turned out to be the right substitution, and credit to Ten Hag for doing it, because there'll be a lot of people out there that were shouting at the TV, shouting at the manager, going, what are you taking Marcus Rashford off for when we need to win? You know? But no, McTominay played well when he come on.
Andy, would you go along with that?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a weird one taking Rashford off because Cash had just got booked, hadn't he? And I'd have liked to have seen Rashford have a few goes at him first, but I don't buy into this thing that that McTominay, comes on to shore up a midfield. As Dan says, he isn't shoring up anything. Fair enough, he comes on to get the winning goal, but defensively, there has to be some Amrabat probably before him if you're going down that route. But I like McTominay. You can't defend for toffee, but I like his effort and his fight. But yeah, he isn't coming on to defend, is he? It looks like a great choice. Now he scored the winner, but I'm not sure what Ten Hag was thinking there. Really, maybe going for the draw. I don't know.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, Dan? Because as both of these guys say, it's an interesting sort of thing to do. But that's his 8th goal of the season. Do you think there is a bit of that Ten Hag's looking at that and realising that he scored more than Marcus Rashford this season? He's our 2nd top goal scorer. Is it more of a case that he's thinking that maybe Scott could be that sort of that impact sub that comes in more often than not and just gets himself up there and in the box and causes a nuisance when you feel like you need a goal?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how McTominay should be used. He's not been brought on to shore up a defence. It's absolute nonsense. He did it well for Solskjaer when he had Fred stood next to him and they never used to leave each other's side because that's the way the tactics were. But McTominay is good at arriving late in the box and nicking a goal. He's done it all season for us. He's done it for Scotland. He's just very good at what he does. I was a bit annoyed at the sub, not because McTominay was coming on, but I thought there were certain players that were gassing a little bit that maybe Ahmad could have come on as well, a bit more trust in somebody else. But I was quite happy with McTominay coming on. Sure, we said on yesterday's show that he's more than capable of coming on and nicking a goal for us from a corner, from a set piece, from a cross, because he does. He arrives late and he's a proper athlete when you look at him. He's what, 6'3". He's strong. He's everything you need off your bench. We've had loads of discussions this season about McTominay, and for me, he's a perfectly acceptable squad player for Man United because he can do this. And we've built an entire history of players that can come and do a job in certain situations, but not. And this is what frustrates me. The woke generation of Twitter these days. If you say, "Oh, McTominay's good enough to play for Man U," you all get battered. And it's. I'm not saying he should start every game and he should play 60 games a season. I'm saying maybe start 15, 20 a season and come on as a sub in 25, and that's good enough for me. If this is the impact he's going to have, he can stay for as long as he wants.
Yeah, I like Scott McTominay. I've never made any secrets of that. But let's get to the goal. And Andy, we'll come to you for this one because it was a brilliant cross from Diogo Dalot. Absolutely superb. And it was an excellent finish from Scott McTominay. He used all the power just to really all he had to do was time his run correctly. If he did that ball was only going in one place. That was the back of the net. But for me, the person that made that goal was Kobbie Mainoo because he gets the ball, audacious little turn, and then just that little bit of trickery to get the ball from the right foot to the left foot that allows Dalot to come in and basically steal the ball off him because there was no way that was a pass from Kobbie. He was getting ready to move out himself. Dalot's just gone, I'll take this from here, sunshine. Lovely little ball in. And then a quality goal from Scott McTominay, which just goes to show, again, just how good we can be going forward. But again, for Kobbie, who'd been perhaps a bit quieter in this game than in others, it's that little moment that he's just been able to turn the game on its head.
He's so good, isn't he, Mainoo? Like you say, a bit of trickery, a bit of strength as well, holds the defender off, just slides it to Dalot, whether he means it or not. But Dalot, again, I think is very underrated defender. I think he's been very good for us, actually, the last few months. What a ball as well. That's such a good ball. It's just asking to be headed in, weren't it? And like Dan, up top, Dan, no, that way, said he's a good athlete, isn't he, McTominay? And he'll get into spaces like that. He's a good threat. And it was a good goal. Like I say, I was just disappointed he didn't celebrate more because, you got to give it back, ain't you, if they give it. But now the Mainoo was quality in that goal. And Dalot, like I say, I find him very underrated. He's a very good player, I think, for us.
Absolutely. And Dan, Dave's put it was the great pass from Casemiro that started it all. He felt, obviously, that Cas' pass was was key to it. And I agree, a great pass, but that goal just does not happen without Kobbie Mainoo and that little bit of trickery, does it?
Yeah, I don't think Mainoo particularly had a great game, but that's to be expected when he's young and he's only just making his way into the team. But it was the run that he made. I just thought he knew we needed a goal. He made that bold run forward. Not many midfielders would have been doing that with 5 minutes to go when their midfield had been running rings round ours for the other 85 minutes or whatever. But I think the goal itself, I posted earlier about. It was just a really old-fashioned goal, and I like old-fashioned football. Crosses into the box, bullet headers. Someone told me that I'm a bit of a dinosaur because I like old-fashioned football and none of this playing out from the back stuff. But yeah, it was just a real throwback to some of the. It was a very like a Beckham-esque cross, the way he whipped it in, and like Andy said, it was just a begging to be headed in the net, wasn't it? Just begging for it.
Absolutely. It's just the sort of goal that we used to score week in, week out. Dan, did that bring you back fond memories of your idol, the main man on the right-hand side for you, the most important player in the history of Manchester United for Mr. Dan Field, David Beckham? You've done it again. Now you've not made your own.
I muted myself this time. Yeah, no, it did. It reminded me of a Beckham cross. Would never be as good, but it was all about Kobbie Mainoo for me. That little 1-2 is just brilliant. I know he's not a pass to Dalot, but it's just amazing. It annoyed me because they sort of said that Varane had knocked it into the corner to waste time, which was absolute nonsense. He knocked it into that corner because there was about 4 Man United players in that corner and they was trying to sustain an attack. And that goes back to the whole Sky's coverage of Man United it should literally be kick off, first half, just adverts, and then second half, and then cut it off. I don't need to hear anything else from anybody at Sky. It's absolutely awful. The header, it's going to sound weird to say, but I think it's slightly underrated because the cross is so good. It's almost like you're expected to score because it was such a good cross. But he's basically got cash hanging off his back as he nods it in, and it's just pure power and strength to get there. And I can't remember who said it, but one of them said he wanted it more. I think it was Merson actually, and he did. He wanted it more than cash. And how many times have we said that this season? I think it's 9 points that McTominay's won us now this season, which is absolutely mad.
I think we had more strikers who wanted to put the ball in the back of the net more than cash.
I know. Love it.
Let that one sit.
I like that one, buddy. I like that.
Thank you very much. I'm here all week. And longer, hopefully. Yeah. We made a couple of substitutions towards the end. Johnny Evans coming on along with Amrabat back from the AFCON. Rasmus obviously went off. Kobbie Mainoo went off. And to be fair, we saw the game out. There was no real major dramas. I suppose really the question to sort of end the review is, what do you see that win doing for us? We're now 5 points away from Newcastle below us. So there's daylight between us and them. 5 points away from Aston Villa in 5th. 6 away from 4th. How do we look at this? How do we look at the next few weeks? It's going to be tough. We've got Luton next week, who are, proving to be a lot trickier than perhaps we'd like them to be at this particular point in time. But when we look at that, when we look at how we've done this season, how we've done in these last few games, and the fact that we are now in with a sniff of 5th, how do we approach it? Do we approach it looking for top 4? Do we approach it just trying to catch up Aston Villa and hope we can make it into 5th and then see where we are once we're there? Like, how would you approach that, Andy? What would you be looking to do?
Well, I think we get ourselves a nice buffer away from Newcastle, and we just keep winning and putting pressure on Villa and Spurs and seeing if they can keep clawing it away as well. Because I don't think Villa will. I think Villa will drop off when the pressure hits. And if we can keep winning, I know we've got Luton next. I'm not too sure what the other fixtures are after, but they're very winnable. I know City's one of them in there. But other than City, I know they're very winnable, the other ones. But if we can just keep doing our thing, keep winning, keep fighting like we did today, then, if we get top 4, we get top 4. But if we end the season playing well and fighting for the badge like we want, then I'll take that as well. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you're not wrong. There's big games coming up: Luton away, Fulham at home, and then of course Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup to finish February, and then City kicks us off in March, followed by Everton and Sheffield United. So, and Brentford always a tricky one, but like you say, all very winnable games there. Danny B, for you, is that something you'd be looking to do? How do you see us trying to do it? Because it's kind of hard, isn't it? It's tricky to get yourself so overexcited at the end of the day because you know we're not fighting for a title. This is just about us finishing the best that we can. And actually, should it now just be more about the performances and getting a team that's ready for next season and working out which players he definitely wants to build around and which ones he's just going to ship off? What do we do with the next half of this season?
Yeah, I think we need to just approach it as a game by game basis. I think, yeah, like top four would be, if after the start we had, if we got top four now, it would be an amazing achievement. And to be fair, because the amount of games we've lost early on this season, to even being with the shout, even now talking about it, it didn't seem likely even a month or so ago, did it? So I think, but for me, like them games coming up, like you say, I think Fulham, Everton, and Sheffield United are all at home as well, aren't they? Like realistically, we need to be looking at that for 9 points. Luton away is a tricky game. They're playing not too bad, even though I know they got beat off Sheffield United yesterday. But I think the winnable games. But I think, like Andy said as well, it's putting the pressure on Villa, putting the pressure on Spurs, see how they react as well, and if we can, because we seem to be the ones with the momentum at the moment, and Villa seem to be dropping off. But I think don't look at the enormity of all of it. Just do a game by game, and obviously we want to try and have a good cup run as well if we can. But all isn't lost, which is good, because a few weeks ago I was sat here and I said about just writing the league season off and just go straight for the FA Cup. And that was all I said. So the fact that
we've worked out what needs to happen, because you'd also written off us coming back and winning the game yesterday. So if you could just do a bit more writing off, then
I'll do it every week if it means we're going to win.
Absolutely. So are we making top four this season, Dan?
No chance.
Well played, sir. Anfield. What do you make of it all, mate?
I'm just game at a time for me. You can't go more than that. I was very similar. I thought the season was pretty much done, and this shows why I'm sat behind a camera saying this stuff and 10 hogs on a touchline, because I was all for bringing in youth, writing off the season, just leave it at that. And he's got us back in touching distance by picking the best 11 and sticking to 12 players he trusts. And we've just got to get it in our heads, game at a time. If we can sort of get into fifth and then leave a gap from 5th to 6th, we've got the chat. I think I was reading earlier, something like a 77% chance that the coefficients will be enough that the English team in 5th will get Champions League as well. So there's that gives us a little buffer as well. We've just a game at a time. I had my head in my hands when they said about winnable fixtures, because it's just not the Premier League this season, is it? It's absolutely mad. Luton are mental as a football team. They are absolutely mental to watch. That game could end 8-8 with the way they defend and the way they attack. They're mental. And then Everton, Sheffield United are obviously fighting for the lives, so that puts pressure on them to do better. I mean, I'm not looking forward to the City game at any point in most seasons, to be fair. So hopefully that is not a bad one, and we can do what we did at Anfield and get a result there. I want to see us just take it one game and then we'll go from there after that.
I think that makes sense. Well done, Twillenbert, because you reminded me of the last thing I wanted to do, which was, of course, the player of the match. So, Andy, we'll leave you till last as you're a guest, and we'll go straight to Dan Field, who should have known this was coming.
Player of the match. I'm going to give it to Onana. I thought just without him, we wouldn't win the game. I know the saves were pretty much. He should make them in terms of thingy, but they were still important saves. I wouldn't have. This is going to sound mental coming from me, but I wouldn't have given man of the match to Harry Maguire. It would have been Onana or Dalot for me.
Okay, Danny B.
It was a toss-up between the three that Dan's just said. Seeing as you gave it to Onana, I'll give it to Dalot. The assist, but I just think Dalot's performances over the last month or so have just been the most consistent out of everybody, and I think he deserves the credit because he's had his fair share of criticism. So yeah, Dalot for me.
NT's torn between Maguire, Varane, and Dalot. Which way are you going to go, Andy?
I'm going to go Maguire just to finish the three. Yeah, I think he's been solid. I like Maguire. I think he's been good this season, to be fair to him. Takes a lot of stick, but I think he's solid. And I thought today he had a good game.
Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree. Dave, anyone got a clue what Dave's chatting about here? The only funny little Spaniard called Manuel that I can think of here is 40 Towers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm very shocked. I don't know what's happened here. You have to help me out, Dave. But he's gone for a Nana anyway, whilst that's going on. There we go. Twillen was laughing about that. Right, there was two things that were starred. One of them that Dan starred, so I'll get him to just go for that now. Dan, why did you star this?
Because I'm not saying there's a narrative from Toowoomba. I'm just saying there's this narrative building on Fernandes, and he's getting the Maguire treatment. So when he don't play at 10-10s, he's getting battered. He created one big chance and 8 chances, and he should, according to his where he passed the ball, he should have had at least 1 assist today. So even though he didn't have his best game, he still should have had an assist and probably more if the front players made better decisions, if that makes sense. So he was still quite good today. Most of the rating apps had him as an 8.2, which was the second highest player on the pitch. So I think he's harshly criticised, is the point I'm trying to make.
Enough, and NT kind of agreeing with you there. He's gone. Bruno's decent today going forward and defensively. So I'm just pointing out it's just an analysis on this game, not other matches. And the last thing that I've starred, because I thought it was a reasonable question to just pop around and ask, should we read Eric as an attack-minded coach who doesn't care how many goals he concedes as long as he wins? It's an interesting question. As we've just said, we're on a goal difference of 0. So you could argue what he's saying here. What I would argue is that a lot of the goals that we've conceded, I don't think have necessarily come from us being too attack-minded, just not being good enough in defence and not defending and doing the basics as we should do. But simple little 1-minute answer for each of you. Andy, do you agree or disagree? Do you think he's just an attack-minded coach who doesn't care? Or would you go along with what one of the replies to this said, which was that actually he's just using what he's got at the moment and we can't really judge him on quite what his philosophy is just yet?
Yeah, I think he's just making the best of what he's got at the minute, and hopefully he'll get people in that he wants, and his philosophy can come out.
Andy B?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to win games at the moment by whichever way is necessary. I don't think we can really read into the way he plays. I do think he probably wants to play that way, but as of right now, he's just doing a game by game basis, winning games, and you can't knock him for that.
Seems fair. And Dan Field, what say you?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's playing with what he's got in the team. We saw last season that we kept a lot more clean sheets. A lot of it's down to individual errors. I still maintain some of these players can't play the way that he wants. So we still need to get to another transfer window and see who he gets rid of. But I wouldn't say that he's attack-minded and don't care about defence. I think he does care about the defence. We just maybe can't play the style of defending he wants to play at the minute.
I should mute yourself rather than unmute yourself, which is a new way of doing things, Dan. You should try that. That's a giggle.
I'll do that this week.
Didn't try speaking though, so that was good. I noticed that I'd been a plank. There we go. Well, listen, that's been an hour and 10. I think that's more than enough for one evening. It's been a cracker. Absolutely brilliant. Andy, lovely to have you on the show, mate. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you have a little shout out, tell people where they can find you and what you do on the old interbobbins?
My main one's TikTok, Andy B MUFC, I think it is. I think my Twitch is Andy Bean84. I just love talking about United, winding up the Scousers. Just the usual stuff, really. I don't know if you like that. Come give me a follow, but yeah, I just love United.
Absolutely, and that's come across this evening. Danny B, of course, it's time for your weekly plug. So if you could do this in your best possible version, that would be amazing.
Thank you. My podcast, Be the Best Version of Yourself, is available on Spotify. It details my struggles with gambling addiction and epilepsy and just other stigma attached subjects like mental health and things like that. Yeah, so if you can follow me on there and give that a listen, that'd be great. Thanks.
I can just tell you've been asked that question so many times because it's such a well-rehearsed answer.
Pre-recorded.
I reckon we'll get to the end of 2024 and I will be able to do that myself because I'll have heard it enough, which is really, really good. And NT's already on his way to TikTok. So there you go. That is brilliant. And of course, we've got Danny Boy over there. Do you want to talk at all about your FTP part of your name? Don't give me the shout it out.
Not in a minute. I'm trying to get my brother to be on it a little bit more, but he works too hard to be able to do stuff like this. Bless him. But it will be up and running soon, hopefully.
There you go. All right. Well, watch this space. Speaking of watching this space, I've had the AFCON on in the background. It's 1-1 at the minute. Sorry if I've just spoiled anybody's day there.
Last time I checked.
Going to be on my way back to go and watch that now. Twilumber just saying, good one, lads. And then he finishes it off with Man United are back.
Well, I've heard that before.
Where have we heard that before? But it's been superb. Where are we going to be this week? Thursday, we are going to be back again. We have got a Thursday topic show. And providing all things work out as they should do, we're already planned in for that. We could potentially, at the moment, we're going to have a Royal Rumble. There's that many people that want to come on Thursday. So
but not me.
Well, this is it. We definitely won't have you because there's not enough room. At this rate, there might not even be me at this point. I'm thinking of just vacating myself. Definitely got Stu and Vicky. They're going to be coming on. They'll have a good topic. But Bainesy wants to come on as well, and maybe even Tone. So,
Brilliant.
Who knows? Might just leave them four to it and just let them crack on. Have a little kip. Think of that one. But either way, we'll be back on Saturday as well and Sunday for the preview of Manchester United against Luton. And then, of course, we'll be back on the Sunday to do all of this once again. Hopefully, talking once again about another good result and whisper it quietly, maybe a little bit closer to fourth. Have a good week, everyone.